Welcome back to the LEC as SK Gaming get to end their spring season on a good note. And so does their AD carry with the flashy Kalista plays. Jezu, thank you so much for joining me for this interview. Congrats on taking down Misfits. A couple words maybe on the AD carry, because this season has been a lot about Jinx, Aphelios. I thought that with Hansama leaving to NA, we wouldn't see Kalista anymore, but I know that you like the champion so much. Why did you pick this champion today?
Honestly, yeah, I love Kalista, and I was getting a bit bored of the Jinx Aphelios matchup. So when they banned Jinx, I was extremely happy. And we did it because obviously, like, we don't have much to play for anymore because we're out of playoffs. So we wanted to play a bit more explosive, play with more confidence and trying to have fun as well, and it worked pretty well. So I'm really happy with the Kalista pick.
Well, having fun and both winning, I guess that's a good day for SK. You also picked Kalista at the same time as Jarvan, and I know that it's a combo that worked really well in the past. Were you thinking of pairing Kalista with Jarvan, or was it not even an option?
Yeah, we were thinking about it. We wanted it, but then we thought that the Nautilus might be a better option. Right. We saw that Mercer wanted to go Puffy maybe as well, so it could be hard. But we wanted to do the level 1 on Neon as well. He checked it well. So that's why we got Nautilus.
Well, combo worked out well in the end. Talking about your opponents, we saw on social media, especially before the game, that you were benchering with VIT. I know you guys are close friends outside of the game. He was aiming for these 7 kills to set the record for himself. Is it something that you kept in mind coming in today? And did it influence your playstyle in the sense that you wanted maybe to take him down a bit more than usual?
Honestly, every time I play against VIT, I wanna kill him a lot, make sure it's hard as possible for him. But then at the end, when we were at the fountain, I wanted to give it to him. That's why I flashed, but I don't know, my team didn't want to, so I was kind of sad. I think VIT deserves this title of getting 100 kills, but I'm sure he will get it later.
Such a good friend. Well, thank you for that. Maybe more about you, Jezu. This was your third season actually in the LEC. You got the player of the game today after also getting the very first pentakill in the LEC this season. How strong did you feel, even though it didn't go so well for SK in general maybe, but do you feel confident about your growth this season among SK?
Honestly, I'm kind of happy. I think the first part of the split, it was really hard, and I felt like we could be way better than we were, because in the beginning, when we started screaming, we were pretty good, and then we just started to get a lot of loss, and then it's hard to build confidence from that. But the second part of the split, I've shown that we have a lot to show, and we have a lot of abilities, I guess, to make a good result on next split. So I'm really confident, and I think we band really well with all the teammates. We all are kind of close friends, and it's working really well.
You really did.
So I'm confident for the future.
Well, that's great to hear. And we saw so much better things coming from the side of SK over the past few weeks. I'm sure summer would be a better time for you. Last question for you. I know you were looking forward to be reunited with Treats on the bot lane. Any words on the synergy you guys found back after these 8 weeks?
I mean, honestly, I love Treats. This guy is great. I love his mindset. I love his how he plays. I think it's a perfect match, so I'm really happy that he signed with SK as well this year, and I hope we will continue playing together. Oh,
bromance on the Rift, continuing this summer. Jezu, thank you so much for the interview. Merci beaucoup. Enjoy the break. We'll see you back in summer, and take care. And this is all for us now, but we'll be back really soon with the next game, Astralis versus Vitality, a pivotal matchup in the LEC today. Back to you, Sjokz.
I like how you teased it there. We're going to be no break. We're back here immediately. Thank you so much, Laure. What a cool interview with Jezu. And I really do have the feeling that despite being knocked out of the playoffs, there are great things ahead for SK Gaming. They can be very proud of the way they ended their season. But we're going to look ahead to the most important game of the day. Vitality's third and final chance to lock playoffs with a win. It's versus Astralis. So without being disrespectful towards Astralis, this should be a good chance for them to do it. But I've thought that the last 2 days as well, Nisqy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Vitality is like a really weird team, because sometimes I'm like, okay, they're actually playing clean, they have good mechanics and all that, and then sometimes they just int it.
I mean, I think, okay, let's say it how it is. Vitality is not a good early game team. And I think last time Astralis faced off against Vitality, they exposed this as well. They had a composition where they had Jhin and down towards the bot lane, they had the Jace into the Camille matchup, and promisq was doing a great job of roaming up on the Leona. So they actually made the game quite unplayable for Vitality in the early game, more than it usually is from this team. But as Nisqy rightfully mentions as well, Vitality is a team that has sometimes got the mechanics to, not per se justify, but make some of these crazier plays work. And it's one of the things that kind of makes this team inconsistent, because at times, yes, it works, it's looking great, but at other times when they take that 3 versus 5 fight and they just get completely demolished, then it just looks silly.
I mean, Astralis also yesterday mounted a big early game as well. They did end up losing that game versus the Mad Lions, but they've been doing good in the early game. Let's take a look at the comp that Vitality puts together versus G2 yesterday, and talk and theorize maybe a little bit about what the game plan is or should be, and from that try to extrapolate what their ideal game plan is.
Okay, so what I'm seeing here is a Syndra, and right now we're not seeing this composition in contrast to the composition that G2 had, but essentially on the first 3 waves you had all 3 lanes pushing in. Do you know how much this does for a jungler, how much you get to play around with it? You could go for counter jungling, anything like that. But it was Jankers who went in for the counter jungling. It was Jankers who got away with all this stuff. And you never played around the mid lane as well, with the Syndra had this stun setup into the Corki. You had a Caitlyn with prior with Tahm Kench. You never played for that either. I'm not mad that they didn't play for bot per se. If we could have just used the bot lane resources, put it in mid. But Targamas kept out roaming Labrov as well. And Vitality was just never, I mean, they never had tempo in the early game. But this composition, they for sure should have had it.
I completely agree. I think when you play Corki into Syndra in the mid lane, I feel like Syndra's team should be able to just play for the first 10 or 15 minutes really freely and get vision, get dragons, get drift. But I feel like it did not happen this game, and I want to see if Vitality changes up their draft, and if Perkz goes back to like control, supportive mids like TF, Galio, Ryze, all that, or if he goes for like still Syndra, Yasuo, that type.
What do you prefer from Perkz?
I think he should just play like a roaming champ and just put
TF every day.
TF Ryze.
Nisqy thinks TF is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, more news at 11. Yeah, I think we've been theorizing about what the team identity is of Vitality. I think ideally for them, they don't want to have a set identity, right? With those caliber of players, they actually want to be able to have a versatile approach coming into the playoffs. But the problem is, you're not even in those playoffs, so you do need to find something that works right now.
I think it's interesting. I think it's something that last year's Friday actually had, where you started out with one stylistic of only playing bot side, then you suddenly started playing a little bit for top side every now and then. But the thing is that approach worked because they started out with a set playstyle, then you made it work with other playstyles after. Vitality haven't made a single playstyle kind of work just yet. They're kind of just throwing it all over the place.
Yeah,
or maybe they don't know themselves really on how to play as a 5. Maybe they all think they can carry, and they don't really have like a big voice that just says, okay, we play this way, and that's what they do. But I don't know. I don't think they've found themselves yet, and I don't think the game today will look that clean against Astralis, but I believe they should win. So.
Clock is ticking, and yeah, they should win, right? Perkz has been going off on Twitter like the whole year. In this case, he said, I just beat Zanzarah Strundle with my Lee Sin jungle. Today is a free win. He also tweeted ahead of the Super Week. First Super Week, we went 0-3. You know, balance has to be restored, and now they're 0-2. The memes write themselves, and we love that they always keep throwing out these statements. But yeah, this is Last Chance Saloon, Nisqy. We talked about it at the beginning of the week, saying, okay, Exile and Vitality both have 3 chances, meaning they might not go as hard in that first game. But now the situation is completely different, and the stress is incredibly high for Vitality.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Vitality, they must win this game, or else it'd be really a big disaster, I'd say, for like the roster they've built and how Vitality has been saying that this would be like a super team and that they could contest the championship and all that. So I hope they win, and if they don't, I'm sure that Matt will win next game. So yeah, Vitality, you must win this game.
I am here for the timeline where the potential super team lose to the last place team in the league. This is the best timeline we've had in a while, and the perfect way to have our last day of Super Week.
I mean, and also, who can it be but Astralis, right? It's like also, it's so poetic, and I think that the players on Astralis, and especially Zanzarah, they want to show something going out, just like SK Gaming did. But yeah, that super team of Vitality, they have to find a plan that works for them. Can Team Vitality finally secure their spot in the top 6 with a win here, or do they need to wait for the Mad Lions to lose their game? I would not recommend it.
Thank you so much, Sjokz, and everyone else on the analyst desk. They don't get names. They're not important enough. Welcome back to the game. We're going to be bringing you this cast. I love how you're getting used to me, but you're also not getting used to me. It's just gotta get used to
definitely along for the ride,
yeah.
as it feels like, I mean, Mad Lion's kind of along for the ride in this one too. They're kind of sitting in the back seat going, let's go Astralis. Let's see what can happen with this. 25% of those remaining scenarios do end up with them somehow getting into playoffs. After all we've talked about, these two teams, the super team, the previous champions, not managing to get into, well, rather being on the brink. This is such a way to end out the split.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. The super team, you know, quote unquote, the way how you want to look at it. We'll see how they're able to do. But the first thing we got to do is look at those picks and bans. And we're getting those picks and bans I promised. See? Keep your promises. They're not on the screen just yet.
I'm glad you're a trustworthy person. You'll be a little weird.
Never trust anyone, not even yourself, Nymaera. Your own worst enemy. Okay. But coming into this one, again, it is still within Team Vitality's own hands. Their own destiny is theirs to mold and push forward. They just need to come out with the win today.
So, as much as that tweet was very funny from Perkz, don't give Zanzarah a trundle. I think that Astralis has struggled to put a blueprint together for success, but they do have half of one, which is have a Leona, have a trundle, both are banned now, and unlock them early, get early vision, make plays around that. I think Vitality very happy to ban towards that comfort. We are now left with two bans. Vitality could ban out the Aphelios and leave the Jinx with the potential first pick. See if both teams want to play that gambit, play chicken with it. But see what version of the meta they want to go towards. The one we've seen for most of the split, something a little bit new that we've seen in the last 2 days.
Honestly, I would love to see them ban away. I was just going to say the Hecarim, but honestly, I would love to see the Zeri ban away here as well, or maybe even leave it up open. Again, Astralis have nothing to lose. They can play similar to SK earlier and just say, you know what, we're going to throw a spanner in the works. We're going to say, we're going to go crazy and go for something. But no, they listen to my comms. They're going to go away, ban away the Zeri.
Okay, so I mean, the thing about the Zeri ban is that, of course, you're going to get this trade-off at this point, and we're going to see Vitality have the ability to push in that wave early. And for me, this works against what Astralis have found success through, which is unlocking promisq on those first few waves, allow him to get elsewhere on the map, unless they want to go towards something like, I don't know, like Aphelios Nautilus that can fight very early and try and get priority in another way, just saying, we might not control the wave, but we're going to take your health bars down. That could be a way to go about things. Now, that Jarvan being locked in gives you a lot of angles to start getting onto the map early there, as for Zanzarah too.
And again, you're on red side for Astralis, so you have a lot of options there to counter pick, to even first pick something on the third one, and then go into those 2 rounds of bans. We are going to see the Zhao locked in. So actually curious there, Zanzarah decided to go for that, and the Ryze priority went all the way down, and now Perkz has himself on that champion.
So the combo which the Astralis found the start of their success towards, like that win against Rogue, a couple of their other games too pulling this out. Jarvan Vex, Hyper Dive, mid jungle, which can punish those overextensions. You go too far forward, that's a Vex over the top, that's a Jarvan comboing it down as well. Astralis have found success with this before. And again, for Mad Lion's fans, you're really hoping they find success again, of course, for followers of this super team of Vitality. Struggling though they may. You'd rather see the other side of the Astralis coin, where they sadly don't get to coordinate this engage, because it is actually a very hard combo to pilot. Not many teams have actually managed to pull this off.
It is definitely a higher or harder to execute composition as we get the next run of bans. I like the Gangplank ban, kind of just limiting those global effects there coming in. Of course, Alphari known to be able to take something a little bit more carry-orientated into the top
side. And if we're talking about Vitality and how they found that, quote-unquote prototype, that blueprint to success, it has been, let's get Alphari a winning lane with something like a GP or a Camille, which are both banned there, and mind control the enemy into picking Aatrox against them. I hear that works really well. And Vitality not going to have the choice of scaling lane-dominant champions in the right matchups. They'll have to think again towards Alphari's pool.
See what they want to go for. Of course, you can just get the counter pick over on the side of Astralis for WhiteKnight. We saw him bring out the Lee Sin. Didn't have a huge amount of success. Wasn't, unfortunately, the 2020 Lee Sin WhiteKnight that we all have fond memories of. And now you got to see where you want to try and take this last few picks. You've got your first pick onto the bot lane, so you get to dictate where this lane goes.
Do you wonder if you're going to see something like a Gnar featuring at some point to give you some options on both sides of the map? Of course, WhiteKnight has been a huge Graves player too, and that is, of course, available. And with a lot left up on the table for both top laners, though. They are actually, as Stag gonna say, let's go down towards that bot lane. Let's get ourselves an engaged support to aid in the dive combo.
Analyst are locked and loaded. We saw in the last game. Didn't have the greatest of times for Mercer, but nonetheless a very, very powerful support to bring in there. The Tahm Kench locked in. A lot of safety there to put onto Carzzy. He's going to be very, very safe on this Jinx, knowing that he just has things that can just get him out of jail free cards.
But I'm looking at this combo from Astralis now, and you see the Jinx, who has a Jin in front of them. With that ult, with the Tahm Kench protecting them too, you are going to have to be pinpoint with your combo. And it's all well and good having a pushing lane for someone like WhiteKnight against the Gnar if you do lock in something like that Graves. But I look at this as Astralis, and this is against a very good comp dealing with that heavy dive.
Yeah, it really, really is. And now with the Graves locked in, both teams have found themselves what they want to go forward with. And it's pretty, as we say, bog standard for the side of Team Vitality. They're saying, look, protect the Jinx, get those side lanes going and get pressure in the team fights. And on the side of Astralis, you're just diving all day long.
You are. And you don't have priority in that mid lane. You know, Ryze is still probably going to clear that out fairly well early into the game. In the bot lane, Jinx tends to overtake the Aphelios. So it looks like Selfmade will have more options than Zanzarah and promisq in the first few levels, which is typically where Astralis have wanted to start things off strongly if they have found wins.
And this is the big thing, again. Team Vitality need to win this game. If they don't, it goes up to whether or not Mad lose or win later in the day, and that means that you are
2 games for
yeah, you are basically waiting right up until the end of the season. And for Astralis, this is just a bit of vindication. This is a kind of, again, similar to SK earlier, put a thorn in the side of this team and say, look, we are not to be messed with, we are not to be underestimated.
No, but of course, SK already showed us earlier that it can be done, it can be the upset, it can be a little bit more drama left.
Hang on.
Oh.
Do you hear it?
Do I?
It's the big clock. And as the clock goes back up into heaven, we can come back down onto Summoner's Rift.
Sometimes you just have to pay your dividends to the great timekeeper in the sky.
That's why we have Zillion in the game. You know, he's a representative. Anyway, let's come back into it. Let's talk about these two teams. And again, we've talked about a lot about how these different setups are going. You might see Zanzarah disconnect. It has been rectified. It is all good. Do not panic at home. We are still being able to play this game. But there's a lot of good ways for the side of Astralis to get on top of Vitality. But on the same time, to say that now,
yeah, just wanted to, because of course, actually, when you do have these early wards, you can give XP to solo laners and for them. Seems like actually it's going to be the right... Okay, we're fighting heavy here.
I mean, Labrov is just trying to slow down Zanzarah as much as he possibly can, just so he can't get the reset in. He's going to be that HP for his red buff, so he's either going to have to use his smite or get a serious ass leash.
And dare I use up all our ammunition up on this right now? But look at Zanzarah, look at that HP, look at the pots already down. You are not going to be able to have these miracle level 2 ganks. You're not going to be able to, or rather, it's going to be harder to do so, right? It's your options are starting to get a little bit more limited. And at least he does have WhiteKnight to help out with that clear. Does have to use, of course, the Smite in the first camp to regen a little.
These are the small little things. Vitality, they're very confident in how they can play. And like we saw on the desk, Nisqy saying, look, maybe they just feel too confident in themselves. Maybe that could have been a disastrous move had they had the, you know, the Vex from Dajor moving up and maybe gets his fear off. You don't really know, but it ends up working out very nicely. I will say Labrov doesn't have his exhaust at the moment. And with the self-made move onto the blue buff, they will have full knowledge of where the Zhao is going.
But I mean, Labrov literally just took that trade because Zanzarah put that wall down across the water. It's like Vitality They know that the ward is down, and they know that the enemy know their own jungle pathing. See how that does influence both these junglers and the way they're going towards their lanes. As we see, actually, because of that early trade from Labrov, who spent a little bit more time towards that top side, it does seem like Astralis have taken control of this bot side, even though it is against that Jinx, it is against that AoE clear. It's just Carzzy and Labrov wanting to play a little further back, because Selfmade is not pathing towards their side of the map.
I do love the Vex. We didn't actually get a lot of time on it. I love the Vex into this composition that Astralis have built themselves as well, and trying going into Vitality, because yes, the Tahm Kench can give the Jinx a lot of safety, but if you just jump in on that Shadow Shard, pop down the personal space, everyone gets feared. That's a fear onto the Tahm Kench as well, so it does actually delay that reaction time.
I like it if you're ahead, because you snowball these fights incredibly well, because you have one round of defensive cooldowns, which will hopefully save your bacon, but if they don't work, well, you're going to get the resets and things go from bad to worse at that point. If you fall behind, though, you're going to go into the Devour, it's going to be a huge shield coming out, you're going to be falling behind. Speaking about early advantages, Vitality looking topside for theirs. Yeah,
well, WhiteKnight recognizes now he's probably been a little bit too far forward. He's just going to try and deny the assist and actually pushes himself a little far forward. The minions in the turret will do enough. Does waste his flash. I feel like he thought he could have gotten away.
He tried to get the fat flash.
Yeah, couldn't get it.
Couldn't get it. It looks a little bit sad on that one. At least he doesn't give any kill participation over to Selfmade. But you know, we're talking about, oh, you know, Astralis, they do the XYZ in terms of the jungle of the supports to start winning there. And actually, we might see that coming out. But Alphari has a lead now. Astralis, can you return fire somewhere else? Wave is pushing against them in bot side, but they're not falling prey to a gank currently.
I love that from Labrov as well. Just saying, look, I recognize that one ward is not going to give me full information of what I need right now, and it does mean they end up getting themselves a camp advantage in terms of the steal. Selfmade is still sticking around this top side. You don't have flash on WhiteKnight. He could honestly go for the dive here.
But you've just run out of Gnar. I think if you had the wall up for the extra CC, flash in for that stun or something, maybe you go for it. Safe for now, and we'll yet to see another play coming out from Astralis. They're being pushed in on top and mid. Selfmade using that priority to potentially steal away some Raptors. Zanzarah contesting them, and actually looks like he's just going to take the free leash.
Free leash, gets the smite down, so nicely picked up there by Zanzarah. And again, we just go back to very standard setups here. And for Vitality, it has been a very... I don't think we can underestimate or understate how important it is for them to just make playoffs, let alone get far in playoffs. This was a team that was constructed out of the best parts that Europe has access to. Now, to stop myself now, as we can see the Carzzy in a lot of trouble, is going to get knocked up, is going to get stunned over the side, but Zanzarah follows him over, and that is another kill going over to... Sorry, the first kill for Astralis.
And that was... like stage 2 of how you stay safe in bot lane. You've given up your early prio. You managed to avoid some of those ganks. Labrov, as you were saying earlier, kind of battle warding out a little bit against Zanzarah. And actually, from all the tracking which Vitality did on their jungle, this has been a recurring trend for them. They see what's happening. They have the information on the map. They just don't get their timings right. Carzzy, well, didn't want to repeat a flash of, well, a failed flash over a fat wall in this game. Goes down for the attempt.
And again, these are kind of very similar things we're noticing from Vitality throughout the split. Small little mistakes where they overextend, they don't quite respect their opponent, and these are things that we need to be very wary of as they come into this game.
And for me, it's it would be assuming a lot to say, oh, it's communication difficulties. They had the information and they didn't use it. But even though, I mean, you literally see Selfmade going in towards those Raptors, you see that Zanzarah is there, you have the timer on that. Immediately afterwards, Perkz spots him in the enemy jungle. And yet they still don't manage to get out safely in that bot side. Alphari looking to take some individual damage on this top side, though, and Zanzarah has found himself into another lane.
They spotted him. A little minion spotted him right as he was going in. So sadly for Zanzarah, there will not be a gank available here, unless Alphari really does feel like he can take on a 1v2. And with that information, it means that Vitality do get themselves a Scuttle and a Dragon. So they're going to be already starting that Dragon stacking nice and early.
So they have themselves the bot lane pushed in as well. Not going to be a contest on this one. Of course, we're heading towards Herald time. Look out for the next couple of waves. See what's happening with these supports pushing out and roaming. Labrov working his way up the rift. Maybe potentially looking to get that pink ward and inventory down into an important spot to secure vision for attempts towards that neutral objective, which of course does start exploding some of these gold leads. I think that if you're looking towards the level 6 mark on the side of Astralis, particularly when you do have that Vex Jarvan combo, that's going to be an important moment to try and flex those muscles.
Oh, Gnar going to be coming in for Alphari now very soon. Is trading fairly decently as he does get that little bit of HP boost. This is why you pick the Braves into it. Very easy for you to drop down the smoke screen. You get yourself the dash away. You can put yourself in a much better position than the Gnar can actually catch you out in.
With that in mind, of course, you're now going to run out of Mega Gnar just now. I think you're going to get just the amount of ability to get the Mega Gnar back for a potential Herald fight. But both bot lanes are locked towards that bot side. You see that Zanzarah and Selfmade both finding their way down there too, but one of them has level 6 and the other one does not. That's going to be the Jinx with the Crescent Guard, and that does uneven these frontline fights.
Again, just going to be ping-ponging of waves available now. There's CS leads, I would say pretty much across the board, apart from bot lane for the side of Vitality. They are got themselves a Gnar lead. You've got the Ryze pushing in very nicely. As we can have a look at the gold. Thank you so much, observers. As not really equaling to too much to talk about. It's the kill and top side that's making the biggest difference.
And I actually really like what Perkz is doing here, because you could be looking to contest the push, but I think more importantly, because you do have, you have the pod advantage, even though there's the cookies on the other side, you can start trying to chunk through them. Perkz wants to make sure that the Vex isn't flying in and going to be unpunished for that. Because one thing is about the Realm Warp versus that Shadow Surge is that it's just much slower, right? You have to be a little... If you have to be reactive with the Realm Warp, you need to make sure the rest of your team is safe already, because then after that point, you're just going to be teleporting into a losing fight already. Or if you start chunking out that effect, stop the initial setup being so powerful, take some of the teeth out of Dajor.
Again, just Zanzarah putting down pressure on this bot side. It doesn't mean those Selfmade should be able to keep himself on this river.
He's actually roaming, has that ult.
He is roaming down. Shadow Surge
on Labrov
is there. They might try and hard force this one. Zanzarah does have himself the Cataclysm, as they may look to try and go for it. promisq not quite got his flash just yet. He doesn't have level 6 either, so it would be risky to say the least, but again, just keeps this Jinx away from the farm, keeps them from getting those levels, and more importantly, that bit of gold.
Okay, so even though Vitality... Okay, well, actually, see if anything happens topside. Not that much mana left on WhiteKnight.
It should be fine.
It's fine. It's fine. We're all good. I just saw him pop the ult. I'm like, oh, he's popped that. Of course, he knows he's on the weak side of that point because they committed so many members towards that bot side. Zanzarah now going to be spotted out on vision. He's going to get rid on those traps.
I mean, he's going to have to try and go for something here because he knows he's very much caught between a rock and a hard place. Double knock up with the Desolate Dive. And that's going to be a trade of kill. The Jinx does fall. promisq gets himself over the wall. Labrov can't actually get the tongue lash just there. He did. That's going to be the crescendo to try and keep them away. They're grabbing them as well. They're doing nicely. They eventually get Perkz' flash out of him, and it ends up being a 2-for-1 trade in favor of Vitality.
It's overstep around that red buff. You don't have your Vex in position. It's the Ryze who gets there first, and it is because actually Vitality have that information this time. They use it correctly. They respond correctly. So even in gold again, kill to the positive on Vitality in that trade. Still lose their Jinx. They're not going to be farming in lane right now. They're actually going to pick up that farm in the mid lane. But still, Astralis not quite getting the clean plays, not quite landing the combo they want to, didn't have that Vex in position, and this is one of the worries about this comp. You do need everything to be in position at the right time to go towards this, and while they did spot Carzzy rotating, and the initial idea is good, it's just the execution a little bit skew.
Yep, those traps will stop you, and yes, they do eventually take down Carzzy. He did not have flash. He did not have his heal left, so he was able to be taken down there by promisq. Not exactly the best distribution of the kill, you would say, on the side of Astralis, but they did force, in fairness to them, they force a lot out of Vitality to make this one go in their favor.
And particularly having that flash away from the Ryze, that means now he is very vulnerable to a Cataclysm, very vulnerable to the Vex going over the top of that. But speaking of that Ryze, it's Perkz that leads that play. Has himself 2 kills out of the 3 for his team. Coming up to this Dragon. Has himself Merc Shreds actually to try and survive that first combo, survive some of that Vex burst. In a good position to influence these fights a little further forward into the battle lines.
We got 30 seconds till Dragon. Alphari is just about to lose his Mega Gnar here, so he wants to try and maybe turn this into a fight with WhiteKnight, so they cannot really make anything else going for it. But it's very much WhiteKnight not winning on this side of things. Does prop down the collateral damage, forced to flash away as the smoke screen just for a little bit of extra safety, but the power of the Gnar, despite the hull breaker being fully completed here for WhiteKnight.
And even though WhiteKnight can push in the wave, again, it's one of these Vitality solo laners saying, you can hit the minions, I'll hit you. We'll see if that's an even trade. And there's going to be WhiteKnight losing resources for it. As you were saying there, Alphari doesn't have the Mega Gnar. There's going to be no teleports for either top lane, so it is just a 4v4 potential around that Dragon. Vitality choose not to commit to it. Going to take themselves some plates instead. In trade for a splitting of the early Dragons, it's going to be that Mountain Rift. It's a Dragon apiece.
And again, I don't think Vitality were ever going to go for that trade. You saw the item differential there between Carzzy and Kobbe, because Kobbe has the Gale Force, so you don't really have a chance of fighting this, and they are going to eventually trade off the top lane tier 1 for the bot lane tier 1, so Astralis still getting a decent trade out of it despite losing their top laner, as Rifty has been summoned up to the top side.
I was about to say, you know, you want to go towards that Herald to maybe secure a first turret, get yourself a few more plates on the table, open up a crockery store for yourself, but it's the first tower over to the Aphelios, who has 1,000 gold lead at this point. There might be a second charge in topside, but look at these weapons. Chakrams galore. Kobbe going to shred this turret. Yeah, and with the added Demacian standard, means he gets a little bit of extra attack speed, and they should be able to take themselves to tier 2. So the advantage you get with taking away the Rift Herald is basically just nullified and mitigated. In fact, anything, Astralis get more. They do, and this is initially a good idea from Vitality to say, sweet, okay, we got the Herald, we got the Jinx, let's get gold onto them, but you have to track those Aphelios weapons. So good at taking down structures, going into melee range with the Crescendum. Severum, of course, helping stack up the extra damage per hit as well. Dajor doing a bit of wave clear duty in this mid lane, but he has everything available. Perkz still doesn't have that flash. We'll have to see again if the mid jungle from Astralis can pick someone off in rotation.
We got a bit of time. Nothing really up for the next while. There's no second Rift Herald for a little bit, I believe, actually. It should be maybe about 2 minutes or so away. But for Vitality, you can't fall here. I'm not going to try and pretty it up. I'm not trying to set up the stakes. Like, this team failing here, with the amount of championships they have between them, LCS and LEC, he has no flash on Perkz. We can see Kobbe trying to just swap out a little bit of extra chakrams, as Perkz should be able to use his phase rush. But yeah, like this again, you need to win this game, and even then, that only puts you into 5th, 6th. That doesn't even guarantee you to go deep run in the playoffs. You just got to get there.
Exactly. You know, last game we talked about, okay, so for Misfits, it's a confidence game. You're against a team which is out of playoffs. Let's see if this can bolster your chances and your hopes for that playoffs run in the best of 5s. And it's a similar situation here for Vitality. Now, Misfits obviously fell in that last game, and what a loss that was, because SK came out of the games absolutely storming, but Vitality seriously want to keep their destiny in their own hands. They lose, of course, it comes down to that game against Mad. Later into the day, we have yet again side lanes split, but Vitality choosing to commit on this one.
I don't know. They know exactly where Dajor and promisq is. This could be a massive shadow surge. We're going to have a full 5v5. Here we go. 3-man knock-up onto the backside. It's a fight on 2 fronts. It's a 3v2 and a 3v2. Kobbe gets self-made, and this is Astralis just playing keep away right now. They have still yet to commit Dajor as they trade back the jungler for the support. Kobbe, though, very, very low. If he gets caught out, he will die. It's going to be Labrov and Alphari leading the charge. The Vanguard here. Tongue Lash will not land. And they all try and back themselves away. Kobbe, though, still feeling like he needs to be protected, will have to flash away from the oncoming Super Mega Det Rocket.
And serious credit to a couple of people on having real discipline. Labrov not using that ultimate of that Devour. And on the similar side, Dajor actually choosing not to commit. Was there on the flank with promisq. promisq went in as a bit of a rearguard action, but that could have gone so differently, depending on who committed or what, if they did overstep their bounds. And in the LEC, we have seen a lot of these teams over-committing every so often. However, we talked about Astralis kind of winning out on a couple of these cross-map trades. This time it's going to be Vitality claiming their own smaller victory in that second Herald. Going back into this replay, though, yeah, again, I really want to focus on, look at Dajor, look at promisq. They don't choose to commit in full, but promisq has the ult, and it just delays. It just spaces the fight out. It's not Carzzy getting excited right from the start of it. And Dajor, I think, honestly, it is the right decision not to commit there. If you commit, I think it goes from bad to worse.
Yeah, I feel like Dajor could have gone in on that. They only just saw you last second. The positioning was always there, and Dajor just kind of walks away saying, sorry, lads, not today.
You have a flash on Jinx. You got that Devour on Tahm, Kench. I just feel like maybe
get them on cooldown. Get them on cooldown.
But if you fall behind, we talked about what happens if Astralis do fall behind and try and pull off that combo the next time. Yes, it ends up kind of being a bit of a not even trade. As we said, slight advantage over to Vitality. Depends on how they use that Herald afterwards. Maybe if they can take down a mid lane out of turret, you'll be ruining that opportunity left there. But Astralis can't necessarily wait for the perfect fight, all things said and done as well. Need to find that combo somehow, some way, and potentially looking for it now in mid lane.
Yeah, they're going to try and maybe find something here. Zanzarah posturing aggressively before the dragon spawns in 20 seconds. Let's have a quick look at the summoners now. No flash or heal on Kobbe. You have got a flash on Carzzy and on Labrov. That's the key carries and support there for the side of Vitality. And it looks like Vitality want nothing to do with this. They're saying, look, come, we're going to try and maybe push in this top side, get some more gold into this composition.
Yeah, so again, looking towards this posturing, looking to see who's going to be filling the Swinging the hammer blow.
They're going to try and go on top of the Tahm Kench because they know he's the safety for the Jinx. If they get Zanzarah taken down, they can't get the Shadow Surge onto the backside. It's going to be a double knockup. Kobbe has to go off, but he's just not got the damage. Vitality get themselves a full, clean ace, and this game has been turned on its head.
I mean, reports of Vitality's demise seem to be greatly exaggerated, at least in this mid lane play. We said that, Astralis, you can't wait for the perfect fight, but they couldn't find even just a good one. That it looked like the start of a pick, the start of something. But it wasn't, of course, Carzzy caught up. The Devour wasn't used to save the Jinx, it used to save the jungler. Things went from bad to worse from there.
I mean, this is just such a... I get it. You want to get rid of the Tahm Kench, but look what you've just given up. 2 turrets in mid, a tier 2 in top, a dragon. This is now out of left field, a 5,000 gold lead now for Vitality.
Dam's broken. Water's streaming through into Astralis. Yes, you do have the ability to catch up people in rotation, but you need to start establishing some kind of vision now. You need to start getting that information war 1 and starts again, actually, with Carzzy doing really well at being pseudo-peel. And look how much damage Zanzarah is taking before he lands that ultimate. Yeah, that Gold Drinker buys a couple of seconds, but not enough to save that Jarvan, not enough to save this fight. Kobbe trying to use this mid-game Aphelios spike in his own right, but it seems to be Carzzy turning up in that fight with the rest of his crew.
Again, just committing so much to Labrov. Just feel, again, I understand, you want to get rid of the support, but you just need to burn stuff off of Carzzy. You need to try and get him away from the fight, so even if he doesn't die, he's no longer involved. TP's going to be coming in. That's going to be Dajor, though, at Zanzarah. Going to find Perkz, who's going to try and fully commit to this one here, but the Everfrost keeps him nice and safe. That's a very tanky Ryze. Alphari now on the backside here. We'll be going mega very, very soon. Zanzarah, though, will not fall down just yet. The Cataclysm comes in with the Gore Trigger. He hasn't fallen. Now he does. Alphari, though, left in a very precarious position. Dajor, though, has been separated from his team, and the rest of Vitality have come to save the day. Perkz didn't need it in the end anyway, as Vitality find 3 and Astralis are falling apart.
They're falling apart. They reached for the stars. They reached for such an important result in the grand scheme of these standings with Vitality, who have once again skirmished their way through to a lead somehow, some way. At the end of the day, the hands on the keyboards are just so talented for this team. It's taken them a long time in this split to get themselves into what feels like a comfortable position. It's coming down to, even after a very back and forth early game, them to finally maybe secure themselves a place in playoffs.
I mean, they're definitely putting the best foot forward here. And look, Astralis, I like the idea. I like the kind of the concept of it, but there's just so much you have to burn through, and I gotta call him out. And Dajor on this Vex has not really been convincing. He's been hesitant. He hasn't really fully committed when I felt like he could have. And yes, you could argue the different semantics of a million different possibilities of what could happen, but at the end of the day, when you're on something like the Vex, you gotta commit. Just like this, double flashes have been in on the Carzzy, and that is a small silver lining here for Astralis.
It is because, of course, if you don't have the Jinx, you don't want to be fighting. Aphelios does plenty of damage in his own right, has that 2 items. And this is with the Baron spawned. You have good weapons for it too. You got those chakrams. I think you have to. They might be the Hail Mary.
I mean, you gotta flip it. This is a flip I actually 100% condone. Here they go. They're going to see Vitality trying to go in. They are going to get the spear onto Selfmade. He's already down to just below half. 6,000 HP on the Baron. Astralis, this is to be heroes or zeros. This is for all the Mad Lions fans to try and keep them as happy as you possibly can. You can see Zanzarah, though, taking a lot of damage. Selfmade, he gets caught out, and they're going to be able to take him out. Yes, they do. They get the jungler, but the fight can now happen for Vitality. That's a massive Gnar ultimate, and Perkz with this machine gun Ryze just blows them apart.
It's a flip, and it lands tails. It lands firmly on it, and Vitality, they will take the ball, which has been tossed right over to their side of the court. They're going to be the ones on the objective. They're going to find themselves a Baron, find themselves an even larger gold lead.
And I mean, I like what you tried to do here, Astralis. You force a fight as they find Carzzy, and this is just great opportunistic play.
It is, because you need to start with that Jinx. If you're not going to get the Jinx in the 5v5, well, why not try and commit all that you can while the field is a little more broken? Dajor is looking for that golden opportunity, looking to take that smite out of the equation, but doesn't quite get it there. While all this is happening, you look at Perkz, you look at Alphari, look at these solo laners, getting a lot of value, getting that Mega Gnar out, and there are no resets in this fight from the Vex. There is no ability for the Aphelios to stand and fight. Vitality is clean up house.
Another race. Baron now, minute till Dragon spawns, 10k gold lead as Vitality take their Baron, Red Bull Baron power play. almost stopped promisq from getting over the wall and made themselves some nice hamburgers. But this is good from Vitality. But again, this is...
Smite. Oh.
I was going to say, there's no smite. He's going to go over. Selfmade, though, feels confident knowing Labrov is around in the vicinity. And you can see he's just not afraid. He's just walking forward saying, cool, go on, go on. Didn't think so.
Yeah. Gonna be if you think you're hard enough. And with a Hull Breaker, he's all right at not taking damage, not so great at being that damage to himself. It's not an Eclipse, it's not one of those builds we see which has a higher damage output, and Astralis, they're looking serious. He fought that damage. Again, revisiting that point, if they are behind in this game, this combo gets so much harder to pull off, even with the Graves ult over the top of it, even with everyone contributing bits and pieces of damage. They're going for a last attempt, looking for a deep teleport. Dale's on the long flank.
Yeah, he's on a long flank, but they know where he is. That's the problem here. Dajor, you tried to go for something, but you were spotted out. So now that last-ditch effort is it's just in you in a ditch.
It's just you in a ditch.
It's just you in a ditch. There is no last ditch. There's just you dead in it. But now he's separated from his team as they kind of try and go for this. You can see now it's actually mid laners in a 1v1 as we got a 4v4 underneath this turret. You still got Charles, the Baroned up cannon minion, putting in work and damage and making sure that they keep that backdoor bonus away.
This is the thing, you know, Dale does collect the wave, but there is a Hull Breaker on the Gnar that's still going to buff up that cannon minion, and that's enough to break open the base. Astralis try and problem solve their way out, don't get themselves the higher road. Might caught someone in rotation, but they're not even able to commit to this.
I mean, it's so hard. This is why Zhao is so powerful. You have to try and commit so much to kill him off. Cataclysm does not quite hit its mark, and Zanzarah, he's going off to Zanzibar and holidays. You feel this is not going to be where he's going to be able to make his final stand. And now with super minions teaming into that mid lane, the buff will turn off very, very shortly, but not enough for Astralis to make a stand.
Oh, it's not enough to make a stand, and they just lost the Alistar ult for I can't imagine what reason there. Maybe trying to predict something, but either way, that's the Alistar ult down. You don't have your remaining frontliner. You don't have Snowball's chance in this base.
No, and there's going to be one more. You're going to get Dajor going in, but he gets immediately exhausted. It's on to Labrov, who gets himself nicely away. The Zhonya's comes out. That's a good Moonlight Vigil, but it's not good enough unless Kobbe can randomly decide to get a pentakill. 1v5, sorry, 2v5. This game is all but done. They even get the reset off Alphari. Perkz goes into golden stasis. Labrov is not afraid as they jump all the way in on top of that one. Vitality at the final port of calling. Lock the last remaining spot in playoffs, and they will face Excel in round 1.
That question mark at the end of Super Team, it's still a little bit there, but they still have a chance to contest that. Again, said it yesterday for a couple of teams. They keep themselves in the question. Sadly, that of course means Mad Lions now locked out, but Vitality is still alive.
Still alive, they did make it. Like we said, this was not how we expected this team to be finishing out their season. 9-9 straight down the middle. That is, for a team, like we mentioned, built to succeed. They're alive, but not exactly the most auspicious of starts.
Still a lot of iteration to go through for this team. Astralis, of course, will be leaving us after this game, but you know, still taking some key wins throughout the split. Sadly, couldn't add another one to that tally here.
Yeah, well, let us know what you guys think of who you think was the key player of the game at LEC on Twitter. Alphari, Perkz, or Labrov. I don't know. Again, this was just very individual plays from a lot of very good individual players.
I love the Tahm Kench performance, actually. It felt so hard to shut down those carries, but either way, it's a full team effort.
Yeah, it is. Well, as you see now, after the break, Laure will be joined by the victorious Perkz to talk about their season and look ahead towards the best of 5s.
Big clock.